The ranger knew something was wrong the moment he saw the footprints. They were enormous, far larger than any human footprint, and they were moving in a straight line through fresh snow. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was where they ended. In the middle of an open clearing, with no tracks leading away, just a final footprint, and nothing beyond it. The ranger had worked in that wilderness for nearly 12 years, thousands of patrol hours, hundreds of miles walked through forests, valleys, and frozen rivers. He had tracked wolves. He had followed moose migrations. He had even dealt with bears, wandering too close to campsites. But he had never seen tracks like these. Not once. Each footprint was almost twice the length of his own boot. The impressions were deep, suggesting something extremely heavy had made them. Yet the stride between each step was enormous, nearly 8 feet apart. Whatever had walked through that forest had been moving with long, steady steps, almost effortlessly. At first, the ranger assumed it might be a prank, maybe someone wearing oversized snowshoes. But the deeper he looked, the less that theory made sense. The tracks were too precise, too natural, and there were no other marks in the snow. No drag marks, no extra footprints, just one set, moving quietly through the wilderness. The trail had started nearly 2 miles from the ranger station, deep within a section of forest that rarely saw visitors. Most hikers avoided that area entirely, not because it was dangerous, but because it was remote, extremely remote. The nearest road was almost 40 miles away. In winter, the area became almost completely inaccessible. Heavy snow closed the logging paths. Frozen rivers blocked the old travel routes. For months at a time, the forest was left entirely alone. Just snow, trees, and silence, which made the footprints even more unsettling, because someone or something had clearly been moving through that isolation and moving directly toward the ranger station. The ranger decided to follow them, at first slowly, carefully stepping inside the same prints to avoid disturbing the trail. He wanted to see where they led, and more importantly, what had made them. For the first mile, the tracks moved steadily through dense pine forest. Tall trees surrounded the path on both sides, their branches heavy with snow. The ranger moved quietly, listening for any sound ahead. But the forest remained still. No animals, no wind, just the faint crunch of snow beneath his boots. After another 20 minutes, the trail reached a frozen creek. The ice was thick and covered with snow. The footprints crossed it without hesitation. But on the other side, the ranger noticed something unusual. The stride had grown longer. The prints were now spaced nearly 10 feet apart, as if whatever had made them had begun moving faster or running. The ranger stopped for a moment, looking around the silent forest. He suddenly felt something he hadn't felt before, a strange sense of unease, almost as if he wasn't the one following the tracks anymore, but the one being led. Still, curiosity pushed him forward. He continued along the trail. The trees began thinning as the forest opened into a wide valley. This was an area locals rarely entered. Old maps showed a logging route that once passed through the valley decades ago. But the road had long since disappeared. Nature had reclaimed everything. As the ranger descended into the valley, the silence grew deeper. Even the usual sounds of winter forest life were gone. No distant crows, no branches creaking in the wind. Nothing. Then he saw it. The clearing. A wide open patch of snow surrounded by tall pine trees. The footprints led directly into the center of it. The ranger followed carefully, one step at a time, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. The final print lay in the center of the clearing, deep in the snow, perfectly shaped, clear and unmistakable, and beyond it, nothing. The snow ahead was smooth, untouched, unbroken, as if whatever had been walking there had simply vanished. The ranger circled the clearing slowly, looking for any sign of another trail, but there were no tracks leaving the area, no marks on the snow, no broken branches nearby, nothing. Then he noticed something else. In the center of the clearing, the snow seemed slightly compressed, a shallow depression, wide, almost circular. It looked as if something extremely heavy had pressed down into the snow, or landed there. The ranger knelt to examine the surface. The snow inside the depression was packed hard, almost icy, but there were no marks indicating how it had happened. No skid marks, no footprints, no signs of movement. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. Crunch. The ranger froze. The sound had come from somewhere behind him, a single step in the snow. He turned slowly, scanning the trees surrounding the clearing. But the forest remained still. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. Then it happened again. Crunch, crunch. 2 more steps, slow, heavy, and much closer this time. The ranger's heart began to race. He turned again, searching the tree line, but the snow between the trees remained undisturbed. No footprints, no shadows moving. Nothing. Another sound followed, a deep breath, close enough that the ranger could hear it clearly, as if someone or something was standing only a few feet away. But the clearing was empty, completely empty. The ranger slowly backed away from the center of the clearing, his eyes scanning every direction. The forest seemed darker now, the trees taller, the silence heavier. Then he noticed something new. Fresh snow falling lightly around him, tiny flakes drifting through the air. But the strange thing was, they were only falling in one part of the clearing, right where the depression in the snow had been. The ranger stared at it, watching the snowflakes land and disappear instantly, as if something invisible was standing there, blocking them. At that moment, the ranger made a decision. He was leaving. Immediately, he turned and walked back toward the trail, trying to keep his pace steady, trying not to run, but every instinct told him to move faster. Behind him, the forest remained silent. No footsteps, no breathing, no movement, until one final sound echoed through the trees. A single step, right where he had been standing moments before. The ranger never returned to that clearing again. But before leaving, he had done one thing. He had taken a photograph. The image shows the final footprint in the snow. Large, deep, perfectly defined. Investigators later examined the photograph. They confirmed the print appeared genuine, but something else in the image caught their attention. Hidden among the trees, in the background, there was a tall, dark shape, standing perfectly still, watching the ranger from the forest. At first, experts assumed it was just a shadow or a tree trunk, but when they enhanced the image, they noticed something far more disturbing. Another set of footprints appearing in the snow, directly behind the ranger, footprints that had not been there when he took the photograph. And according to the ranger, those tracks had never appeared in the clearing at all.